And why wait until next year when the second Des Moines Cajun Fest will take place next week, June 4th, at JR Southpork Ranch in Des Moines. It's on the State Fairgrounds. And I'll tell you what, I hope you're all having a great Memorial Day weekend. And this is going to be a party weekend. But I'll tell you, next weekend in Des Moines, it's going to be a huge party fest. And joining us right now is the creator of Cajun Fest, Iowa, in the Des Moines Cajun Fest, is Stephen Smith. And Stephen, happy Saturday, and a week from today, either you're going to be really stressed out or you're just going to be partying like you've never partied before.
Or a little bit of both, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Tell me how this sounds like we showed the video, and I a little New Orleans and Louisiana story with me, because the people who listen to me on the radio know this. My friends know this, is that my oldest daughter went to Loyola New Orleans. My second daughter is a student at Loyola New Orleans. In fact, she moved out of New Orleans just this morning to move to Oxford, Mississippi, to live with her sister for the summer. But there's something about Louisiana. There's something about the crawfish. There's something about the fried food. There's something about the music, the atmosphere, the camaraderie that makes it very special. Is that what you're trying to create in Des Moines with Cajun Fest?
Absolutely. I think it's always good to bring a flavor of something different. People here in Des Moines have been incredibly cool about trying different things and embracing different things, but also, create that community feel that, the Southern hospitality is so famous for. I think that's Iowa nice written all over it.
Now, take me through your process of bringing Cajun Fest to Iowa and your relationship with the state of Louisiana. And because it's like you needed a taste of home, isn't it? Didn't you need to bring home to Des Moines?
Exactly. Yeah. Moved here about 9 years ago for my first job. Came from Shreveport, Louisiana. And there wasn't really a whole lot of Southern flavor here. So we thought, it'd be cool to, show these people what crawfish are all about. So we flew in a bunch of crawfish and kind of had a good time, threw some money in, which we donated to charities here in the community, and kind of grew and got its own legs. So now it's a whole thing, which is kind of fun. Unintentional, but fun.
Well, and so, growing up in Shreveport, is it hard how do you get the crawfish here? How do you take me through the process of just making sure that this is as authentic as you want it to be?
It comes with a very heavy shipping and handling fee, because we fly it overnight straight from New Orleans. So it is, we pick it up at the Des Moines airport on the Southwest flight kind of thing. This year will be about 800 pounds flown in overnight. So it'll be straight from the Gulf.
I know a lot of people think they understand the Cajun culture. I think a lot of people think they know what it's like to be Cajun. What is it like growing up in the South and growing up with this food and growing up with this atmosphere that you think it just attracts everybody to it? Because you can have a Cajun festival in Michigan, you can have one in Montana, you can have one like you are in Des Moines. What attracts people to the Cajun lifestyle?
Well, first of all, I think everything revolves around fun. It's called a Big Easy for a reason. We're known for hospitality and fun. But moving around quite a bit growing up, New Orleans and New York are like, wherever you are, you always know where you're at in those two cities. And I think New Orleans is one of those places between the food, the music, the smell in the air. It's just one of those things very unique that you kind of, again, when you see it, what you're there.
It's funny that you say the smell in the air, and it's hard to describe. Now, I've been lucky because my daughters have lived there, but there is something about the smell of New Orleans, and it's not bad. But you do know when you're down on Frenchman Street, or if you're down in the French Quarter, or even in Uptown, you're like, okay, I know I'm in New Orleans because there's a definite smell here.
Yeah, and part of that is certainly the crawfish smell, which we certainly make sure that we mimic well here in Des Moines.
So you are going to have Cajun Fest, and it's coming up on Saturday, June 4th. Here's the information. You got tickets that you can buy at CajunFestIowa.com. That's CajunFestIowa.com. $40 general admission, $100 for the VIP tickets. Take us through what people get with their tickets and what's the difference between the general admission level and the VIP level.
Yeah, absolutely. So long story short, you pay your tickets and we want you to be in. So food is all inclusive. You don't have to pay for any more chow. So beignets and hurricanes and all that kind of fun stuff that you would expect.
So the alcohol is included with this too?
For a VIP, we're going to give you your first drinks are on us.
Okay.
Honestly, we had Confluence made a Cajun Fest beer for us, which we're excited to share with the community as well. We also have some awesome live acts this year. Last year we had Tony Bunnycamp, which we're bringing back again, but we also have the NOLA Jazz Band playing and a Zydeco band that we found in Iowa City of all places, and they're actually really good. So for VIP, we have a certain section, an area. You get to sit on the top shelf, so you feel like you're on a balcony in Bourbon Street, as you mentioned. We have concierge service, so you can just kind of sit down and relax and have, be waited on, which is always appreciated. But everybody gets to share in that same kind of music and food, which is, I think, that central point.
In music and food, it's amazing what music and food can do for people, because it is a uniter. And let's be honest, it's been a crappy week, right, for this country. And festivals like this bring people together into what, we may have good conversation, but there are things that more things unite us than divide us. And I do believe food, drink, festivals, they unite us, and this is a source of just joy.
Yeah, even seeing that video, every time I see it, it kind of gives me a smile again. But you saw the community, and it's not a one size fit all. And we have a good group of people that come together for it. And again, to your point, I think these are kind of those central lubricants that bring everything together and help the grinds.
Okay, you grew up in Shreveport, but you cannot be a native, because your accent is just, I'm not buying the accent. So take me through your journey of how you ended up in Shreveport, and how and for being an Iowan, how you're talking normal if you were a native Louisianan.
Yeah, well, so I grew up in an Air Force family, so moved around a bunch. Was born in Texas, but lived in Louisiana a couple times actually. Did my last stint in grad school there in Louisiana, and got an offer from Des Moines, Iowa, which was a curveball for me. I think the accent's been broken out of me a bit. There's a little bit of fun teasing that goes on. I make fun of the hard O's here in the Midwest, and they make fun of the y'alls for me. But I think, again, it's all in good jest, and kind of made me a son of the country, I guess.
You mentioned you're an Air Force brat. So, I'm based in Omaha, Nebraska. Did you ever spend time in Omaha at Offutt?
Yeah, no. Pops worked for Strategic Air Command, which is there, obviously. But no, we never landed there.
That could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. I don't know. But wait, I mentioned, because I'm sure I get a lot of people that will see this that are based in Omaha. I want all my Omaha friends to know that, because I drive this on a regular basis during the fall, during football, from downtown Omaha to the fairgrounds. And we're going to get into the fairgrounds. It's a 2-hour drive. It's door to door. It's 2 hours. So I don't want people to think, well, I'm not from Des Moines, I can't go to this, because it's a very simple drive. And Des Moines is a great city just to visit and to have a good time in. I would recommend to my Omaha friends and even Western Iowa friends, get in your car, go to CajunFestIowa.com. First of all, get your tickets, and then make a hotel reservation. Spend Saturday night there. There's a lot of good things you can do on Sunday morning, but this is one of those festivals that you could. There's plenty of room down in the fairgrounds, and you'll have a great time. And speaking of the fairgrounds and where you're going to be, you've switched locations this year. This year you're going to be at JR Southpork Ranch. JR Southpork Ranch made its debut last year at the Iowa State Fair. It was voted like the best new venue at the fair. And you can see pictures here of what it looks like and kind of the atmosphere you're going to get. And take away not having a river, Stephen, I got to be honest with you, this is about as close to New Orleans as you can get with the overhangs. And I mean, I see beads all over the place here. I think you can have fun here.
Exactly. I think it's awesome because, I mean, first of all, JR's already has kind of that Southern theme, which really played well for us. We have the balcony, so you feel like you're on Bourbon Street. And then certainly we'll do our best to make sure that it looks and feels as close as possible to the Big Easy.
Where did you have it last year, and why did you know that JR's was going to be the right place for this?
Last year was at Captain Roy's, which is great, down on the river. That team is awesome, but we're growing, and we kind of outgrew that footprint. And a friend, Brooks, who is our friend at Bacon Fest, he's the one that took over this JR's place. And because of that, experience with throwing great parties, it really was a no-brainer.
JR Southpork Ranch. So how does this work with, because people are going to want to know this, and because, it's not like it's going to be packed like the fair, but what does parking look like? Where can they park on the state fairgrounds? So that's park in the neighborhood. What does parking look like for this?
Yeah, there's a huge parking lot like right down the street from JR's. We have maps and all that stuff, and we'll also have like golf carts. But I mean, honestly, it's 200 feet away from the venue, so it's going to be easy to park. We'll have golf carts for those who want to hop on, and maybe people like me that might have had one too many hurricanes. We have all those kind of opportunities as well, but it'll be easy. It'll be smooth.
So take us through the menu. You mentioned you're flying in the crawfish the morning of, and we want you to suck the head, everybody. Suck the head. All right. If you're going to do it. Yeah. But you know, okay, I'm going to put you on the spot here as a true Louisianan. Okay. Are you going with Tabasco or are you going with Crystal?
I think we're going to Louisiana, and we're also this year partnering with Lola Hot Sauce here in Iowa.
Okay.
So we're having the opportunity to bring in some of those Southern classics, but also, again, infuse some Iowa into it so we can make it our own thing.
See, I like that. But I'm a Crystal guy, right? So, because I think a lot of people up here haven't heard of Crystal just because it doesn't Tabasco gets up here. I mean, everybody knows what Tabasco is. Crystal is probably, I don't know, does it get out of the South? I'm trying to think if it does. All I know is that when I go visit my daughter, I go to Costco. And they sell the Crystal for I get like 4 bottles for like $2. It's just like, wow, I can get this no problem. But Crystal's turned into my favorite. But the hot sauce I will admit is key for crawfish.
Yeah, and our chefs come from New Orleans. They fly up here to actually cook their own thing, so they're very particular about their boil. And Crystal, as you mentioned, is kind of one of the staples. I have a bottle in my kitchen right now, actually.
So if people aren't familiar, because somebody like, you know what, I'm going to do this for the first time. I've always wondered what Cajun Fest was, or I wonder what Cajun Fest. Describe a boil, because it's just not, you're going to see the red crawfish, and I don't know what time of year it is, if they're still going to be plump and big or not. But take people what goes through a boil, what's in a boil, and just what makes it taste so damn good.
Yeah, so there's a combination of things. So for a boil, obviously we're throwing in crawfish in this water that you're cooking for hours. You have a bunch of spices and flavoring, as you mentioned, hot sauce. Some people put in beer, what have you. And then you throw in corn, potatoes, and sausage, so that you have a full kind of meal in itself there. In addition, we're making gumbo from Grandma's recipe, which y'all will not be disappointed with. Gumbo obviously is more soupy. We're making jambalaya, which is pretty safe for people. It's sausage, chicken, and rice and beans and things like that, easy to eat. And then we're doing beignets as well. So beignets, if y'all aren't familiar, is kind of a cross between I'd say a donut and a funnel cake. It's a square little pastry that you really pound with sugar, but they're fantastic. So it's a good menu.
You mentioned the sugar. It's not granulated sugar. It is powdered sugar. And if you visit Café du Monde in New Orleans, that's probably the most famous. I'm now convinced that I don't think Café du Monde has the best beignets. It's the most famous beignet place, right? But it's funny if you go, it's right along the Mississippi River in the French Quarter, and if you go in there, it's just there's powdered sugar everywhere. It's an absolute mess. The rats and the mice and all the varmints that live in the quarter absolutely love coming out at night. Not that it's going to be that way at the French Quarter, or at JR's, but that's what makes New Orleans kind of eclectic, right? It's hard to recreate it, but a beignet is more like dessert. That's a good way to put it. Are you doing red beans and rice? Doing a little red beans and rice?
I think jambalaya is the closest we're going to get this year. Next year, we're going to keep expanding the menu, some boudin balls and all that kind of crazy stuff that my Southerners expect us to have. We'll keep growing.
You know what they're going to start expecting? They're going to expect you to have these big vats of fryers up there. You're going to be doing catfish here pretty soon. And then you're going to have, that's another, you could do that. And pretty soon you're going to like, hey, we're oysters in the half shell. And before you know it, you're going to be like at a $250 ticket just because of all the seafood you got to bring.
We'll manage. We have great partners that have helped us to really leverage this so that, again, we're able to afford to throw something that's all inclusive and feels very comfortable and don't feel like you're having to get taken to the bank. So you mentioned
those partners. Do you want to throw those out? Do you want to mention your sponsors? Because throwing an event, I don't think people ever understand. Throwing an event like this is not easy. It takes a ton of time. It takes more money than I think people ever realize, and it does take people to purchase tickets. And that's what we really are encouraging people to do today, because Cajun Fest it's a blast. And when you throw in the music, you mentioned you've got a jazz band, you got the Zydeco music, which is it's recognizable as soon as you hear it. But why don't you give a shout out to your sponsors, because having do a fundraiser, a nonprofit fundraiser, I can tell you that without sponsors, it does not happen. It doesn't happen at all.
Very true. Yeah, no, we've had great sponsors this year. Southern Comfort has been with us since the beginning. They're our hurricane sponsor, so they make them just right. We have Broadlawns, we have FNG, we have Baton Global, we have Rework, we have Lola Hot Sauce. We have, the news channels here are helping us. We've had the community really come together, because I think they see what we're trying to do, which is bring a new flavor, but it's a community fest for the community, because me nor any of my committee members make any money off it. Everything that is profit goes back to our community. This year, we're sponsoring and helping raise awareness for St. Vincent de Paul and IJAG, which is all about connecting the dots between education and the real world. How do we get our kids and get our youth into the right places? So being able to be that community partner and have community partners is what makes this thing special.
What'd you learn last year, and what have you made better for this year?
It goes fast. It's a blur.
That's true.
Yeah, it goes really fast. And I think, being able to grow it and have more music, more activities, and more fun. As you saw from the video, last year was extremely successful. We've had extremely awesome, loyal following. So now it's just always up in the ante, and we're prepared to do it.
We're not going to hide around the fact there's a lot going on in Des Moines next weekend. All right. There's a lot going on, because you picked the day first and everybody says, well, look what Cajun Fest is doing. Let's jump on the bandwagon. That must be the week to do it. But there's a lot to do. And this is one of those events where you want people to stay for the entire time, but it's easily one of those, you can come in for a couple hours and have just a good time if you're going to stay the whole time.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of great events like you mentioned. But we say you can get pizza and beer any day of the week and every day of the year. You can't do this kind of Cajun experience very often, though.
You mentioned something that I want to go back to, because that I think is pretty unique. And you mentioned that you're flying the crawfish up day of. But you mentioned your chefs are coming up. So, and I know this, I forget who he is. I follow him on Facebook, but he's a Cajun, and I forget he's funny. I forget what his name is, but he's really good. But there is something about the authenticity of bringing somebody up from Louisiana, because you can give a recipe, you can do all that stuff, but it's the little nuances of having that original just way of doing it. Who are you bringing up, and how do you know these guys? And are they friends from your childhood? Tell us about the people who are making your food.
Yeah, so they're all from New Orleans, and like me, was from Shreveport. Met a lot of them in school, but also we now have friends that are, these gentlemen have been cooking crawfish for 50 years. So I think it's a little bit of that tender love and care. It's a little bit of secret sauce, I'm sure, that they're not telling me about. But they'll have the accents that you're expecting as well. So they'll have some authenticity, the whole thing. Yeah,
and it's not Southern, right? It's just, it's hard to describe what a Louisianan access is. Because my daughter lives in Mississippi. That's more of a, Texas Southern is one thing. Mississippi and Alabama Southern is one thing. Louisiana has its own little dialect, because it's that French and Southern put together, and that's where that Cajun comes from, because it's really French Canadians that came down, and the Indian culture too. So it's unique. I think is a good way I would put it.
Yeah, I find two groups in New Orleans. Sometimes they sound like they're dang near from Brooklyn or something. Like you just, I can't place it. And other times it's just you're saying words I don't understand, right? And kind of blending everything in together like we're in a Water Boy or something like that. But somehow they always get their point across quite well.
I've got an idea here for you, because we want to do this when it's warm, right? You don't want to do it in the middle, but St. Louis is besides New Orleans for Mardi Gras. And New Orleans Mardi Gras is different than what everybody thinks, because I went down for Cru de Vue this year in New Orleans, and Cru de Vue kicks off the Mardi Gras season. In New Orleans, Mardi Gras is a season. It's not just Fat Tuesday. It goes on for almost a month. And Cru de Vue is one of the most amazing parades that if somebody can go to, I highly encourage them to do that. but St. Louis is about as far north as you have a really good Mardi Gras parade. Could we pull off a Fat Tuesday parade in Des Moines? Could we make, or is it just too cold in Des Moines to do a really good Mardi Gras parade? And I don't know if people here would. I don't know if people around here or not. I don't know.
I think that's what we're trying to build, right? We're trying to get the awareness of the Cajun culture, the fun that comes with it. And honestly, we have intentions to bring that to Des Moines and bring that kind of feeling. I want to see floats going down Main Street.
Yeah, even if we did the Mardi Gras in June, right? Let's just do floats. No, let's have a Mardi Gras parade right now. Or you could do this, because they do this in New Orleans. This might be the way to do it. I'm not telling you to move. Look at me, just coming up with ideas, telling you what to do. I'm bossing you around. Yeah. But they do a halfway to Mardi Gras parade in New Orleans, and I think that what falls in like August or September, that might be the way to do it. You get a little warmer and say, hey, we got Cajun Fest, but let's do the halfway to Mardi Gras party, and we could do that and have parades and stuff. There's just I'm an idea guy. That's what I'm coming up with ideas for you.
That's exactly what we're hoping for, man. That's keep telling the listeners about it so that they'll come make our dream a reality.
What's I mentioned the Omaha people. What do you think the farthest people have come from? Do they come from Mason City? Do they come from Iowa City? Or are they just pretty much Des Moines people that go?
Well, other than my New Orleans friends, we had somebody from Oklahoma last year.
Nice.
Coincidentally, it seems to be that because of this time of year, people are visiting family and coming back home and seeing folks. And a lot of those people have some kind of connection to Louisiana. So when we have people in Des Moines bringing family and friends from across the country to come to our events, man, that's how we know that we're doing something right.
Yeah, no kidding. What's your favorite? Is crawfish your favorite? And do you do the boil with corn, potatoes? Do you throw it all in there?
Throw it all in there. And honestly, I'm a gumbo guy. I can't mess around with a good gumbo. So that's probably my favorite. Classic.
Cajun Fest Des Moines. It's coming up on June 4th at JR Southpork Ranch in Des Moines. It's on the State Fairgrounds. And for tickets, go to CajunFestIowa.com. There are two levels for your tickets, the $40 general admission ticket and the $100 VIP ticket. I'm going to be honest with you. Spend the extra $60, get the VIP experience, because JR offers a unique. You get the balcony experience, you get that first hurricane, but both tickets do come with your food, which is going to be just delightful and yummy. I promise you that. What do you want to leave people with? What do you want people to know as they think about planning their weekend? Because they get 3 days. They get a 3-day weekend here. They get to start planning and thinking about what they want to do.
Well, if you haven't had a chance to make it to New Orleans and you're planning on it or curious about it, I think this is something that's very unique. And I think as we think about experiences rather than just festivals, we're building a cool experience that you can't get anywhere else unless you're heading back down south. So this is the opportunity to do so.
If you're wondering, because people are going to hear hurricanes, and yes, there's going to be alcohol here, but it is a kid-friendly event, correct? And kids, if you're leading, on the crawl, you can see that. I believe kids 10 and under are free.
Correct, and we have a thing called Camp Cajun where we're painting masquerade masks. We're making beads. We're doing things like that. We have snow cones and beignets for kids, of course, hot dogs as well in case the spice intimidates. We make sure that it's open to everyone, as it is in New Orleans.
Yeah, it really is. And I know people think, and it's hard to explain. If you haven't been to New Orleans, or if you've only been once or twice because you've gone there for, a convention, or you just went there for a quick vacation, New Orleans is more than the French Quarter, okay? Bourbon Street is not a true indication of what New Orleans is. It's not even close. I mean, Bourbon Street's a freak show. I'm not going to lie to you about it.
I agree with you.
But there's so much more to New Orleans outside the quarter, outside of Frenchman Street. Now, I love Frenchman Street because that's where all the music is, and it's really cool. But if you go to Magazine Street, if you go up to Uptown, Metairie, I mean, there's just different pockets of New Orleans that are unique. So this is also turning into a PSA to go visit New Orleans, but that's okay, because it really is. You mentioned New York, and the reason. And I'm putting words in your mouth, and I hope you don't mind me doing that. The reason you want to bring this to Des Moines is because there is no other feeling like New Orleans. When you spend a considerable amount of time there, you come to realize pretty quickly it might be the greatest city in the United States, hands down, because People don't judge each other. It's very inclusive. People are just happy. They're just happy. And that's the feeling you want to recreate here, I believe.
You put the perfect words in my mouth. Yes, sir.
Well, but I noticed that because I remember the first time I went to New Orleans, it was just right after Katrina, right? And I hated it. I was there for the NCAA baseball or basketball tournament, and I hated it. I'm like, why do people live here? They should just, it's below sea level. Everybody should just move out, let it go away. And that was my thinking. And when my daughter comes to me in high school and says, hey, Dad, I'm going to go to New Orleans for college, I'm like, oh, my God, why would you do that? And then it didn't take me very long to go, oh, I understand why you want to do this, and I understand why the city is so cool. But it's just one of the things you have to experience. And it's doing the radio show that I do. I get people who write me because they know my children live there. They know that I've been there a lot. I get people who write me all the time. Hey, where do I go? What places should I eat? And that's always hard because I go to Italy a lot too. And I'm like, just go to a restaurant. It doesn't matter. The food's that good, right? I mean, you can go to the cool spots, but the truth is you're probably going to find a much better restaurant, a much better bar that you never even dreamed of because it's pretty hard to screw it up when you're from there.
I'd say this is crazy because it sounds weird when you say some of the best food you'll get is gas stations down in Louisiana.
No, it's so true.
Iowans eat KC's and stuff all the time, so I think we're familiar with how good gas station food can be, and that's just the truth.
It reminds me of a story. My daughter lives in Oxford, Mississippi, and there's a gas station right outside of Oxford. And I walk in and they've got fried chicken like you've never seen. And I'm like, I want like a whole chicken, and they got boiled peanuts in Mississippi. But and that's what makes the South so unique is the cuisine, the hospitality, the friendliness, and it's being recreated at Cajun Fest, Iowa. It's going to be in Des Moines next Saturday. Again, one more time, if you want tickets, I do want to show everybody this one more time. General admission, $40, $100 for the VIP tickets. Go to CajunFestIowa.com. Stephen, thanks so much for your time today. I appreciate it. I think you're doing a great event. And you're helping out charities, and I think that means the most. And I appreciate your time today.
Mr. Justice, I feel the same, and good to know another quasi-Southerner. We'll, have much more talks in the future.
We're all Southern by heart, right? So good luck next week. I know you're going to be busy this entire week, and I hope you get great weather, and I hope you get a great turnout. We appreciate it.
Hope to see you all soon. Thanks, man.